The rain-slicked streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium lamps like veins pulsing with forgotten promises, and Elias Thorne stood at the edge of the hospital roof, the wind whipping his coat around him like a shroud he couldn't shake. Rowan's voice cracked through the phone line one last time. "Do it for him, Elias. Divorce me. Let Beckett go knowing you're free." But Elias's fingers trembled not from the cold, but from the weight of a love that had twisted into this merciless blade. In that suspended heartbeat, as thunder rolled in from Puget Sound, Elias whispered into the void, "Not like this," and turned back toward the sterile glow below, where the real ending waited in a tangle of tubes and beeping monitors. Elias had always believed that love in Seattle was like the fog rolling off the water. Thick, enveloping, and impossible to see through until it lifted, leaving you raw and exposed. He met Rowan Hale on a drizzly afternoon in a Capitol Hill coffee shop, the kind of place where baristas etched latte art that looked like abstract heartbreak, and the air hummed with the low murmur of lives intersecting by accident. Elias was 25 then, fresh out of a graphic design program at the University of Washington, sketching logos on napkins while nursing a black Americano that tasted like regret. Rowan, 30, was already a fixture in the tech scene, building apps for remote workers who dreamed of escaping the grind but never quite did. He slid into the seat across from Elias with a grin that cut through the gloom, his green eyes sparking like bioluminescent waves. "That sketch," Rowan said, nodding at the napkin. "It's got soul, like it's screaming what the rest of us are too scared to say." They talked for hours that day, the rain pattering against the window like impatient fingers. Rowan shared stories of growing up in a sleepy suburb of Tacoma, where his father ran a failing auto shop and his mother baked pies that no one bought. He mentioned Beckett in passing, his son from a fleeting college romance with a woman who'd vanished after the pregnancy test turned positive. Now a lanky 12-year-old with his mother's freckles and a laugh that could disarm a room. Elias listened, enchanted, because Rowan didn't wear his scars like badges. He wore them like invisible ink, revealed only under the right light. By closing time, Elias had given Rowan his number scribbled on that same napkin, and when Rowan's text came at midnight, "Coffee tomorrow?" or something stronger, Elias felt the fog part just enough to glimpse a future. Their first real date was at Gas Works Park, the old gasification plant ruins silhouetted against a sunset that bled orange into the sound. They walked the hilltop trails, hands brushing accidentally at first, then deliberately, until Rowan pulled Elias close under the shadow of a rusting boiler. The kiss was tentative, salted with sea air and the faint bitterness of craft beer from a picnic basket they'd smuggled in. "I've been waiting for this," Rowan murmured against Elias's lips, his breath warm and steady. Elias, heart hammering, thought of all the boys he'd loved in secret back in his small Oregon hometown. Stolen glances in high school locker rooms, awkward hookups in college dorms that ended in shame. This felt different, real, like the kind of love that could weather the endless gray skies. They moved in together 6 months later, into a loft in Fremont with exposed brick walls and a view of the troll sculpture lurking under the bridge. Life unfolded in rhythms that felt scripted for an indie rom-com. Lazy Sundays tinkering with Rowan's latest app prototype while Elias freelance designs for local breweries. Weekend hikes up to Rattlesnake Ledge, where they'd collapse at the summit, sweat-slicked and laughing, trading kisses that tasted of trail mix and triumph. Beckett visited every other weekend, a whirlwind of energy who idolized his dad and eyed Elias with the wary curiosity of a kid piecing together a puzzle. "You're the artist guy," Beckett said on his first overnight, peering at Elias's sketchpad. "Can you draw me as a superhero?" Elias did, rendering the boy as Captain Echo, with soundwave gauntlets and a cape billowing like storm clouds. From then on, Beckett called him Uncle Eli, and the title stuck like sap from a Douglas fir. Marriage came 3 years in, on a crisp fall day at Discovery Park, with the Olympics rising jagged on the horizon. They exchanged vows under a canopy of madronas, their voices steady despite the lump in Elias's throat. "I choose you, every rainy morning and every stolen sunset," Rowan said, slipping a simple tungsten band onto Elias's finger. Beckett, now 15 and towering over them both, stood as best man. His voice booming through the readings with a gravity that belied his youth. The reception was intimate. Craft cocktails at a Pike Place speakeasy. Toasts that blurred into tear-streaked laughter. That night, tangled in sheets that smelled of salt and cedar, Elias traced the lines of Rowan's back and whispered, "This is forever." Rowan pulled him closer, his reply a rumble against Elias's chest. "Damn right it is." But forever, Elias learned, was a fragile thing, prone to cracking under the weight of what came next. It started with a cough, dry, persistent, the kind Beckett dismissed as allergies from the alder pollen thick in the air. He was 17 then, a senior at Roosevelt High, obsessed with indie bands and dreaming of Berkeley for music production. The doctor visits blurred into specialists, scans that lit up like fault lines on a seismic map. Stage 4 lymphoma. The words landed like a Puget Sound squall, drenching everything in sudden, suffocating chill. The loft transformed overnight. Infusion chairs crammed into the living room, their hum a constant underscore to meals that went uneaten. Elias redesigned the space around Beckett's needs. Low shelves for his vinyl collection within arm's reach from the couch, a mural of swirling sound waves on the wall to remind him of melodies he could no longer chase. Rowan threw himself into research, scouring clinical trials from Boston to Barcelona. His once relaxed gait now a tense prowl. Elias held the home front, cooking bone broths Beckett pretended to like, reading aloud from dog-eared copies of The Alchemist when the chemo fog rolled in. Nights were the hardest. Beckett would wake gasping, his thin frame racked with shivers, and Elias would slip into his room, curling around him like a human shield until dawn. "Why me, Uncle Eli?" Beckett whispered once, his voice a rasp against the pillow. Elias, throat tight, stroked his hair, thinning now like autumn leaves, and said, "Because you're the strongest echo we've got, and echoes don't fade. They just carry farther." Beckett managed a weak smile, but his eyes, once bright as harbor lights, held shadows that no story could banish. Rowan and Elias's intimacy frayed at the edges, not from neglect but from exhaustion's cruel arithmetic. Stolen moments in the kitchen, fingers interlacing over dishwater, became lifelines, but even those carried the metallic tang of fear. "We're in this?" Rowan said one evening, forehead pressed to Elias's as they swayed to a faint Coltrane record. "All of us." Elias nodded, believing it then, because love in its truest form was a tether in the storm. Yet storms have eyes, and this one gathered force with every PET scan that showed no shrinkage, every experimental drug that promised miracles but delivered nausea instead. Beckett's 18th birthday came and went in the oncology ward, balloons deflating like hopes against the four-pole. He turned to Elias that day, his hand cool in his uncle's grasp, and murmured, "Don't let Dad fall apart when I'm gone. Promise me you'll make him let go if he clings too tight." Elias squeezed back, the words carving into him like graffiti on wet concrete. He promised, because what else could he do? But in the quiet hours after, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, Elias wondered if letting go was ever that simple. By spring, the loft felt like a ship listing in dry dock, every corner heavy with the scent of antiseptic and unspoken grief. Beckett's laughter had dwindled to echoes, his body a map of bruises from the latest round of platelets. Rowan paced the halls at night, phone glued to his ear, haggling with insurers over coverage denials that felt like personal indictments. Elias designed grief in silence. Brochures for support groups he never attended, journals with prompts for words they couldn't yet say. It was on a rare, clear afternoon, sunlight slanting through the blinds like hesitant fingers, that Beckett gathered them both. He was propped on pillows, a beanie hiding the remnants of his hair, his voice thin but deliberate. "I need to talk about what's next," he said, eyes flicking between his father and Elias. Rowan froze, coffee mug midway to his lips. Elias felt the air thicken, charged as pre-thunder. "I've been thinking," Beckett continued, "about what I want. Not the big stuff, the music, the trips we never took. The small thing. Dad, you and Eli. You're the best team. But if I'm not here, I don't want you chained to this ghost of me. Eli, you're the heart of us. If it comes to it, make him free. Divorce him if you have to. Let him find someone who doesn't carry my shadow. The room tilted. Rowan's mug shattered on the floor, dark liquid pooling like spilled ink. Elias reached for Beckett's hand, but the boy pulled away gently, his gaze imploring. It's my last wish, okay? Fulfill it. For me. Rowan crumpled then, burying his face in his hands, sobs racking him like aftershocks. Elias sat stunned, the words embedding like shrapnel. Divorce, free, shadow. That night, as rain lashed the windows once more, Rowan turned to Elias in the dark, his voice a broken whisper. He means it. God, Eli, what if he's right? The days blurred into a watercolor wash of hospital whites and home grays, each one bleeding into the next until time lost its edges. Elias navigated it all on autopilot, picking up Beckett's prescriptions from the compounding pharmacy in Ballard, their labels a litany of chemical hopes. Vincristine, doxorubicin, rituximab. He'd linger in the aisles sometimes, fingering jars of herbal teas that promised immune support, as if chamomile could rewrite DNA. Back home, he'd brew them anyway, watching steam curl like unanswered prayers while Rowan fielded calls from work. His team at the startup sympathetic but distant, extensions granted like condolences. Beckett's wish hung between them, an invisible fissure widening with every labored breath. Rowan brought it up first in the car, en route to Swedish Medical Center for another lumbar puncture. The wipers slashed rhythmically against the windshield, smearing the city lights into halos. Eli, he started, knuckles white on the wheel, about what Beck said. I can't stop thinking it's his way of absolving us. Like he's the anchor dragging us down. Elias stared out at the passing storefronts. Vintage shops in Finney Ridge hawking records Beckett once scavenged for deals, and felt a hollowness bloom in his chest. He's not an anchor, Elias replied softly. He's our compass, and compasses point true even in fog. Rowan glanced over, his profile etched with fatigue, and nodded. But the seed was planted, germinating in the silences that followed. Therapy sessions became mandatory, a triad of grief counseling in a Belltown office with fern-green walls and a therapist named Dr. Lena Voss who spoke in measured cadences like a jazz bass line. She was in her 50s, with silver streaks in her bob and eyes that held the Pacific's depth. Wishes like Beckett's, she said one Tuesday, as rain drummed the roof, often stem from love's shadow side, guilt, protection, but honoring them doesn't mean obedience. What does your shared story demand? Elias shifted on the couch, Beckett's beanie, knitted by a neighbor, clutched in his lap. Rowan leaned forward, elbows on knees. It demands we don't break, but if staying together means we're just surviving his absence, that's not living. That's mausoleum. The word landed heavy, and Elias felt it settle in his gut like wet cement. Beckett sensed the rift, his intuition sharpened by illness into something almost prescient. During a good afternoon, rare, like a blue hole in the clouds, he wheeled himself to the kitchen table, where Elias was sorting mail that piled up like unanswered questions. You guys fighting over me? Beckett asked, his tone light but probing, fingers drumming a faint beat on the armrest. Elias forced a smile, sliding him a smoothie fortified with protein powder that tasted like chalk dreams. Nah, kid. Just figuring out how to captain this ship without you hogging the wheel. Beckett's laugh was a ghost of its former self, but it warmed the room. Liar. Dad's got that look. Like he's solving world hunger but starving himself. Tell him my wish isn't a chain. It's a key. Unlock whatever scares you most. That evening, Rowan cornered Elias in the bathroom, steam from the shower clouding the mirror like breath on glass. He's right, you know, Rowan said, towel slung low on his hips, water beating on his chest hair. We've been orbiting Beck for so long we've forgotten our own gravity. If we divorce, clean, amicable, it frees us both. You could start fresh, Eli. Travel, design without the weight. Find someone who doesn't come with this baggage. Elias, mid-lathering his face, felt the razor nick his jaw, a sharp sting mirroring the one in his heart. He rinsed, watching pink dilute in the sink. Baggage? That's our son you're talking about. And me, you think I'd walk away because it's hard? Love isn't a startup you pivot from when metrics dip. Rowan's eyes darkened, hurt flickering like a shorted wire. It's not pivoting. It's mercy. For him. For us. The argument simmered, flaring in quiet ways. Rowan's late nights at the office, claiming deadlines. Elias's solo walks along the Burke-Gilman Trail, where joggers blurred past like lives unencumbered. Beckett's condition dipped then, a fever spiking to 103, landing him in the ICU with pneumonia's opportunistic grip. The hospital room became their universe. Beeps syncing with heart rates, nurses gliding like specters in scrubs. Elias slept in the recliner, waking to adjust blankets or fetch ice chips, while Rowan paced the hall, phone in hand, updating a support network that grew thinner by the day. One midnight, as fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, Beckett rallied enough to speak. His voice was a thread, but the words wove tight. Dad, Eli, I see you pulling apart. It's my fault. Rowan knelt by the bed, grasping his son's hand, for lines tangling like veins. No, buddy. It's the disease, not you. Beckett shook his head, freckles stark against pallor. Then listen. My wish, it's not about splitting you. It's about choosing. Eli, you're the one who sees colors in the gray. Choose life after this. Divorce if it means you fly. But don't let hate be the glue. Tears tracked down Elias's cheeks, silent as summer rain. He leaned in, pressing lips to Beckett's forehead, tasting salt and fever. I choose you both. Always. Discharge brought no relief, only a hospice consult that arrived like an uninvited guest. The social worker, a soft-spoken woman named Carla with a lanyard badge and a folder of forms, outlined options. Home care, inpatient, the comfort measures that euphemized the end. Rowan signed papers with a pen that trembled, his jaw set like driftwood. Elias watched, feeling the ground shift beneath him, a tectonic slip toward inevitable. Back in the loft, reality fractured further. Rowan's urgings intensified, whispered over takeout tie that congealed untouched. Beckett's lucid today. He asked about the papers, divorce papers, said it would ease his passing, knowing we're not tethered by obligation. Elias's fork clattered against the plate, pad thai noodles slithering like accusations. Obligation? Is that what our 10 years are now? Some checkbox for his peace. Rowan recoiled, green eyes stormy. It's love, Eli, the kind that lets go. If you won't, you're the one chaining him. The words echoed Beckett's earlier cadence, a cruel mimicry, and Elias stormed out, coat unbuttoned against the chill, walking until his legs burned and the city lights smeared into comets. He ended up at Lake Union, the water lapping black and restless under the moon, sitting on a bench scarred with initials, lovers' carvings from decades past. Elias pulled out his phone, scrolling through old photos. Beckett at 14, grinning with a new bass guitar. Rowan and him at their wedding, arms slung casual, joy unshadowed. The ache was visceral, a hollowing out, and for the first time, he allowed the dark thought. What if ending it all, the pain, the pleas, meant something more final? Not divorce, but dissolution. The system, with its tubes and titrations, its endless interventions. His thumb hovered over Rowan's contact, but he dialed no one, letting the night swallow his silence. Morning brought fragile truce. Beckett, sensing the barometer drop, called them to his bedside. A nest of pillows and monitors in the living room now converted to a care suite. Family meeting, he quipped weakly, a smile cracking his lips. They sat, hands linked in a chain that felt both anchor and lifeline. I don't want my last notes to be discord, Beckett said. Dad, push the divorce if it heals you. Eli, fight it if it saves you. Just harmonize somehow. Rowan nodded, tears carving paths down his stubble. Elias, voice steady as rebar, replied, harmony isn't erasure, it's amplification. We'll find the cord. The cord sour, and the next relapse hit like a rogue wave. Beckett's kidneys faltered, dialysis lines snaking into his arms like roots seeking soil. The loft echoed with the machine's whoosh and click, a mechanical lullaby that mocked sleep. Rowan withdrew further, his app work a digital escape hatch, code compiling while life unraveled. Elias manned the watches, logging vitals in a notebook with margins filled with doodles. Abstract grief in ink. Fractured gears, wings clipped mid-flight. It culminated one fog-shrouded evening, as Elias changed Beckett's central line dressing, the boy's skin translucent as onion skin paper. "Uncle Eli," Beckett murmured, eyes half-lidded, "you're my favorite part of this mess. Remember that." Elias's hands stilled, tape adhesive under his nails. "You're the whole damn symphony, Beck." Later, alone in the kitchen, Rowan cornered him again, voice raw as a braided wire. "Hair's fading. Ellie." The lawyer emailed forms. "Sign them. For his wish. Divorce me. Let him pass knowing love wins, not loss." Elias met his gaze, the man he married now a stranger in familiar skin. "Love wins by staying, Rowan. Not by cutting the line." The standoff stretched, taut as a bowstring, until the hospice nurse's call shattered it. Acute distress, transfer to Virginia Mason's ICU imminent. In the ambulance's wail, Elias gripped Rowan's hand, the city a blur of neon accusations. Beckett's last wish wasn't a plea anymore. It was a siren, pulling them toward rocks they couldn't chart. The ICU at Virginia Mason was a cathedral of controlled chaos. Glass walls partitioning lives on the brink. The air conditioned to a perpetual autumn crispness that chilled bones deeper than weather. Beckett's bay was at the end of the hall, monitors casting ethereal glows on his face, turning him into a figure from some cybernetic myth. Tubes orchestrated his breath now. A ventilator's hiss the only rhythm left. Elias and Rowan took shifts like sentinels, trading places at dawn's first light. Their conversations reduced to logistics. Vitals stable at 2 a.m. Nurse said platelets tomorrow. The words were shields, but they couldn't blunt the truth etching lines into their faces. Dr. Marcus Hale, no relation, a wry oncologist with a beard like coastal scrub, pulled them aside after the transfer. He was in his 40s, tie loosened, clipboard a prop for bad news. "Beckett's multi-organ involvement has progressed," he said, voice even as Lake Merritt on still days. "We're managing symptoms, but discussions about goals of care. They're timely." Rowan nodded, jaw clenched. Elias felt the euphemism land like a stone skipped across water, ripples spreading. Goals. As if this were a project with milestones, not a sun-slipping anchor. Back in the bay, Beckett stirred briefly, eyes fluttering open to slits. "Hey, captains," he rasped around the tube, the effort Herculean. Elias leaned in, thumb brushing his temple. "Rest easy, Echo. We've got the helm." Beckett's gaze sharpened, flicking to Rowan. "Dad, the wish. Don't wait." Rowan swallowed hard, nodding like a man signing his own surrender. That night, as Elias dozed in the vinyl chair, Rowan slipped out to the family lounge, a sterile nook with vending machines humming judgment, and returned with printouts. Dissolution agreement, notarized, pages crisp as fresh snow. "Eli?" Rowan whispered at shift change, the papers folded in his fist like contraband. "Read them. It's straightforward, assets split 50-50, no alimony, Beckett's care covered jointly till it's done." Elias took them, the legalese blurring under fluorescent glare. Paragraphs on shared property. The Fremont loft, Rowan's 401k, Elias's design portfolio, reduced a decade to bullet points. "This is what he wants," Rowan pressed, voice cracking on the edge. "Signing frees us from the guilt. You, me, we rebuild without this albatross." Elias's pulse thrummed in his ears, a war drum. "Guilt? This isn't guilt, Rowan. It's family. And families don't dissolve like aspirin in water." The push-pull intensified, a gravitational dance around Beckett's bed. Nurses noted the tension, their charts annotating not just vitals, but the human weather. Family dynamics strained. Recommend chaplain. The chaplain came, a gentle Episcopal priest named Father Theo, with laugh lines and a collar that seemed more suggestion than stricture. He met them in the lounge, offering coffee in styrofoam cups that steamed like fragile peace. Beckett's wish, Theo said, stirring non-dairy creamer. Sounds like grace in disguise, but grace isn't forced. What does your soul say, Elias? Elias stared into the black swirl, seeing eddies of memory. First kisses in the park, Beckett's superhero portrait yellowing on the fridge. My soul says hold on, even when it hurts. Beckett rallied once more, extubated for a window of lucidity that felt borrowed from another life. Propped up, he devoured a milkshake, chocolate, extra thick, spooned by Elias, while Rowan fiddled with a tablet, cueing Beckett's playlist. The Nationals' brooding anthems, Bon Iver's falsetto haunts. This is gold, Beckett said, licking foam from his lip, eyes brightening. You two harmonizing yet? The question hung, and Rowan seized it, unfolding the papers on the tray table. Working on it, bud. Eli's. Considering. Beckett's spoon paused midair. Consider hard, uncle. I see how you light up when dad's not watching. Like you're a sketch waiting for color. Don't fade with me. Elias excused himself then, fleeing to the hospital's rooftop garden. A concrete oasis with potted asters nodding in the wind. Seattle sprawled below, Space Needle piercing the dusk like a defiant spire, ferries cutting white wakes across the sound. He lit a cigarette, contraband, bummed from a janitor, inhaling deep, the burn a proxy for the one inside. Rowan's words echoed. Albatross. Rebuild. But what of the nest they'd woven, feathers and all? His phone buzzed. A text from an old client, a brewery in Walla Walla needing labels. But he ignored it, watching smoke curl toward the Olympics, mountains that endured no matter the squalls. Downstairs, Rowan confessed the confrontation to Dr. Hale, who prescribed a palliative consult. The team arrived at round's end. A social worker, ethicist, the attending, all orbiting like moons around a dying star. Advanced directives? The ethicist began, a woman with wire-rimmed glasses and a voice like tempered steel. Empower Beckett. If his wish includes family reconfiguration for emotional relief. Rowan latched on, detailing the divorce as therapeutic intervention. Elias, entering mid-discussion, felt betrayal bloom cold in his veins. It's not reconfiguration, he interjected, voice steady despite the quake. It's amputation, and Beckett's not dictating our vows. The room stilled, air thick as pre-storm hush. Beckett, dozing through it, stirred at the raised tones, his murmur cutting sharper than scalpels. Amputate, if it saves the limb. Laughter bubbled from him, weak but genuine, defusing the bomb. But later, alone with Elias, he whispered, Don't hate Dad. He's scared. Like I am. Elias nodded, throat constricted, and held him until the monitors lulled them both. Home visits punctuated the ICU stays, brief respites where the loft's familiarity mocked their fracture. Elias cooked Beckett's favorites. Salmon cakes with dill yogurt, evoking Maine summers they'd never shared but imagined. Rowan hovered, papers in his briefcase like a talisman, broaching the topic over dinner. Imagine it, Eli, post this, you in a studio downtown, freelancing for films. Me consulting remote from the San Juans. No ghosts. Elias speared a fluke of fish, flaky as resolve. Ghosts? Beckett's not a specter. He's our spark. And sparks don't divide. They ignite. The breaking point came during a code, Beckett's heart stuttering into arrhythmia, crash cart wheeling in like avenging angels. Defibrillator pads adhered, jolts arching his body. The room a frenzy of commands. Clear! Charging 200. Elias and Rowan pressed against the wall, hands clasped white-knuckled, watching arcs of electricity rewrite fate. He stabilized, but the scare etched permanence. DNR tattooed on his chest, metaphorical ink for the end. In the aftermath, Rowan escalated. See? We can't keep jolting back. The divorce, it's DNR for our marriage. Honorable exit. They argued in the hospital chapel, stained glass casting fractured rainbows on pews. Honorable. Elias hissed, voice echoing off vaulted beams. It's cowardice. You think signing away us honors him? It buries him alive in your fear. Rowan recoiled, face ashen. Fear? I'm droning. Ellie. In what-ifs. What if we stay and resent? What if Beckett dies knowing he trapped us? Elias left the chapel, wandering corridors until he found a quiet alcove, curling into a ball on linoleum cool as judgment. Tears came then, hot and unbidden, soaking his sleeve. The system, the ventilators, the chemo cocktails, the legal forms, loomed as a monolith, options dwindling like sand through an hourglass. For the first time, he voiced the unvoiceable to the empty air. End it. Not suicide, not yet, but mercy for the boy who bridged them, whose wish now tore the bridge asunder. Beckett's next lucid hour was a gift, sunlight slanting through blinds like hesitant hope. He gestured for paper, scribbling in looping script. Play my demo, then decide. The track, raw electronica layered with his bass, titled Unmoored, filled the room, beats pulsing like a second heart. Lyrics ghosted over synths. Let the tide take the wreckage, sail light. Rowan wept openly. Elias traced the waveform on the screen, seeing their lives in its peaks and troughs. That night, Rowan presented the signed copy, his half-inked, waiting for Elias's mark. For the demo, for him, Elias held the pen, tip hovering, the weight cosmic. Ink would sever, refusal might strangle. Outside, thunder grumbled over the cascades, promising deluge. Dawn broke grudging over the ICU, a pallid light that did little to warm the chill settling into Elias's marrow. He hadn't slept, the pen's shadow lingering on the papers tucked into his messenger bag like a guilty secret. Beckett's demo looped in his earbuds during the drive home. Unmoored space thrumming against his ribs, a subterranean pulse urging release. But release from what? The love that bound them, or the fear that frayed it? The loft greeted him with oppressive quiet, hospice aides having tidied the care suite into neutral territory. Sheets folded crisp, monitors silenced like sleeping beasts. Elias brewed coffee strong as regret, the machine gurgling like a distant storm. His phone lit with texts. Rowan. Talk later? A client. Revisions on the label? Beckett. Somehow, from a borrowed tablet. Heard the track? Float, don't fight. Elias pocketed it, grabbing keys for a drive. Aimless toward the coast, where salt water might clarify the murk. Highway 99 north wound through industrial sprawl, box stores giving way to evergreen sentinels as he crossed into shoreline. The sound appeared in glimpses, slate gray and restless, whitecaps fretting under a low sky. Elias pulled into a pullout near Golden Gardens, gravel crunching under tires, the beach a shingle of pebbles and driftwood. He walked the tide line, boots sinking into wet sand, waves nibbling at his hems. Gulls wheeled overhead, cries sharp as accusations. Here, away from beeps and ballots, the divorce papers felt absurd. Ink on dead trees, dictating hearts still beating. He thought of their early years pre-Beckett's shadow. Road trips to the Hoh rainforest, where they'd hike hand-in-hand through moss-draped halls, kissing under banana slugs' slow parades. Rowan then was a force, adventurous, his laugh booming like cannon fire off basalt cliffs. Elias had been the dreamer, sketching ferns that unfurled like secrets. You're my North Star, Rowan said once, tracing constellations on Elias's palm by campfire light. Now that star flickered, eclipsed by grief's orbit. A memory surfaced, unbidden. Beckett at 16, post-diagnosis, during a good week. They'd piled into the truck for an outing to Pike Place. Beckett in a wheelchair but spirits sky-high, haggling for Dungeness crab with fishmongers who humored his barbs. At the original Starbucks, he'd ordered triple-shot mochas for all, toasting to plot twists. Laughter then was medicine, unscripted and potent. Elias picked up a smooth stone from the surf, heart-shaped, veined gray, and pocketed it, talisman against the tide. Back in Seattle, Rowan waited at a cafe in Queen and, the kind with mismatched mugs and scones baked fresh. He looked wrecked, stubble shadowing his jaw, eyes red-rimmed from vigil or vigilante tears. "You didn't sign," he said by way of greeting, sliding a latte across the scarred oak table. Elias sat, steam rising between them like a veil. "Couldn't. Not without talking first. Ro, this isn't just paperwork. It's us erased." Rowan stirred his black coffee, spoon clinking like a countdown. "Erased? Or edited?" "Beck's wish is the red pen, Eli. Cutting the dead weight so the story breathes." They walked after, up the counterbalanced stairs to Cary Park, the skyline unfolding in panorama. Needle stadiums, the Olympics a hazy bruise. Tourists snapped selfies, oblivious to the drama unfolding in their midst. At the overlook, Rowan leaned on the railing, wind tousling his hair. "Remember our first fight? Over that stupid app launch, you wanted me home. I ghosted for code. We patched it with pizza and promises." Elias nodded, the memory bittersweet. "This is bigger. Beckett's not a bug. He's the core." Rowan's grip tightened on the rail. "Core's rotting, Eli. And if we cling, we rot too. Divorce lets us compost. Turn pain to soil for new growth." Elias turned away, gazing at the Ferris wheel's lazy spin across the water. New growth? With who? Some tech bro in a WeWork pod? Or me, swiping on apps for hookups that echo but never land? The words tasted bitter, laced with the jealousy he hadn't admitted. Rowan stepped closer, hand on Elias's shoulder, warm, familiar. "Not hookups. Real. Like what we had before this eclipse." The touch ignited old fires, and for a moment, Elias leaned into it, inhaling Rowan's scent. Cedar cologne and hospital faint. But he pulled back. "We still have it. Buried under the rubble. Dig. Don't dynamite." The hospital called mid-afternoon, Beckett stable but requesting them. Traffic clotted the viaduct, horns blaring frustration, mirroring Elias's inner snarl. By arrival, the bay felt smaller, walls pressing in. Beckett, mask off, managed a thumbs up. "Missed you, crew." They flanked him, chairs scraping linoleum. "Heard you two pow-wowed," Beckett said, voice muffled but mischievous. "Progress." Rowan hesitated, then pulled the papers from his jacket. Creased now, battle-worn. "Alias." "Processing." Beckett's eyes, fever-bright, locked on Elias. "Process fast. I want to see freedom before the fade." Elias's chest constricted, a vice. He took the papers, unfolding them on his lap, the clauses marching like soldiers. Dissolution of domestic partnership, equitable distribution. His pen appeared from nowhere, habit, and hovered. "What if freedom isn't a part?" he asked the room, voice athread. Beckett reached, fingers skeletal but sure, covering Elias's hand. "Then rewrite the clause. But don't stall the story." The touch grounded him, a current from boy to man, and Elias scrawled his name, initials only a half measure before reason caught up. He tore the page, confetti of commitment scattering on the blanket. Rowan gasped, hurt flashing raw. "Eli, wait." Elias cut in, gathering shreds. "This isn't no. It's not yet. We need a clause for us, for trying." Beckett chuckled, a wheeze of approval. "Improv. Love it." The moment passed like a squall, leaving cleared air, but Rowan's silence on the drive home was a chasm. Hospice escalated that week, the loft now a full suite. Hospital bed by the window, overlooking the Troll's Leer. Oxygen concentrator humming like a faithful djinn. Aides rotated, kind faces from the agency, bearing puzzles and playlists. Elias designed a mural extension. Sound waves evolving into birds, mid-migration. Beckett watched from bed, directing colors. More indigo there, deeper, like the sound at midnight. Rowan's urgings morphed, less petition, more plea. Over microwave burritos one evening, AIDS gone, he spread new forms. Amended his lawyer's touch. Joint custody of memories but separate paths. Beck approved via text. Elias chewed mechanically, rice gritty. Texts aren't vows. And paths diverging? That's tragedy, not therapy. Rowan slammed his fork down, plastic cracking. Tragedy is watching you dim, Eli, like a bulb flickering out. Divorce is the switch off, then new light. The fight spilled into the night, voices rising until Beckett buzzed from his room. Walls thin, guys. Volume down. Chastened, they retreated. Elias to the balcony, smoking pilfered menthols. Rowan to the office, screen glow his confessor. Dawn found Elias on the fire escape, city awakening in horns and gulls. He texted an old friend, Jordan from design school, now in Portland. Ever divorced a ghost? Reply came swift. Ghosts haunt either way. Choose the haunt that heals. Beckett's decline accelerated, fevers cycling like malfunctioning code. Delirium brought visions, conversations with absent bandmates. Bass lines hummed to phantom crowds. Elias sat vigil, cooling cloths on brows, reciting lyrics to anchor him. You're still the frontman, he'd say, and Beckett would grip his wrist, murmuring, Encore for you, uncle. Free show. Rowan, unraveling, cornered Elias post-shift. He's hallucinating weddings now. Us, then you with someone else. It's the wish manifesting. Desperation clung to him like damp wool. Elias, bone-tired, snapped. Manifesting? Or projecting your escape fantasy? Rowan's face crumpled, and he lunged. Not violent, but embracing. A crash of bodies against the fridge. I love you, damn it. That's why it hurts to hold on. Elias stiffened, then melted. The kiss that followed fierce and farewell-flavored. Love holds. It doesn't flee. But flight beckoned. A trial drug from Zurich arrived, experimental, for drip of hope laced with hazard. Consent forms multiplied. Ethics boards consulted. Beckett signed with a flourish. For the plot twist. Infusion day, the loft buzzed with medics, lines priming like stage cues. Elias held his hand through the burn. Rowan's on the other side. A circuit complete. Euphoria followed, brief, blazing. Beckett sat up, devouring ramen, plotting a virtual concert. You two MC, he decreed. Announce the divorce as intermission. Laughter rang, but undercut with edge. Rowan seized the window, papers thrust forward. See? He's soaring. Sign Eli. Let him land knowing we do too. Elias, high on the miracle, wavered, pen trembling. The drug's arc peaked, then plummeted, rejection, anaphylaxis, code in the living room. Ambulance lights strobed the walls like disco apocalypse. Back in ICU, stabilized but scarred, Beckett's eyes held accusation. Twist. Nodded. Elias, guilt a shroud, whispered apologies. Rowan, outside the glass, mouthed the inevitable. End the charade. Divorce. Elias fled to the chapel again, knees to pew, bargaining with silence. The system, drugs, docs, decrees offered levers but which to pull. Freedom's price climbed, and in the quiet, a radical mercy stirred. Not ink, but interruption. End the system's grip, grant the wish in shadow. The Zurich drug's backlash lingered like a hangover from hell. Rashes mottling Beckett's arms like abstract tattoos, kidneys protesting with output scant as desert rain. The ICU team pivoted to palliation, morphine drips titrated to ease without eclipse. Elias memorized the pump's clicks, each a tick toward terminus. Rowan, gaunt as the evergreens outside, haunted the halls, his briefcase now a reliquary for the divorce decree, updated with hospice riders, survivor benefits, memorial funds. It's comprehensive, he'd say, voice hollow as a gutted bass. Protects everyone. Elias avoided the papers, burying in routine, coordinating with the palliative pharmacist, a Vietnamese-American woman named Lynn who delivered compounds with quiet wisdom. Pain is a thief, but we choose the locks. Her words echoed during walks to the cafeteria, where he'd snag vending pretzels, salt stinging like unshed tears. The hospital's rhythm became his, elevator dings marking hours, pagers beeping urgency. Friends drifted in, Jordan from Portland, bearing IPA and bad jokes. Beckett's music teacher, Ms. Reyes, with a USB of student covers. Their presence was ballast, but Rowan's fixation tipped the scale. One overcast afternoon, as mist cloaked the city like a mourner's veil, Rowan ambushed him in the family lounge. Vending hum underscored the confrontation, neon C for slot mocking with empty promise. Eli, the notary's downstairs. 5 minutes sign and we tell Beck it's done. His wish fulfilled. The papers rustled from his pocket, edges frayed as nerves. Elias, mid-sip of flat soda, set the can down deliberate. 5 minutes to unmake 10 years? No. We tell him we're fighting. For more time. For us. Rowan's laugh was bitter bark. Time's the thief now. And fighting? It's exhausting you. Look at your hands. Shaking like leaves in a gale. Elias glanced down, indeed trembling, caffeine or cataclysm. Shaking means alive. Means I care. Rowan stepped closer. Cologne faint under antiseptic overlay. Care? Or cling? Beck's last lucid words were let go. Not of him, of the cage. The lounge door swung. A nurse entering for coffee. Her glance sympathetic slide. Elias stood, papers crumpling in Rowan's fist. Cage? This is sanctuary, Ro. And I'm not the jailer, you are with your exit strategy. The rift widened that evening, during rounds. Dr. Hale reviewed labs, creatinine climbing, liver enzymes a red flag parade. Comfort-focused, he concluded, charting with stylus flicks. Beckett, awake but adrift, interjected. Comfort includes truth. His voice, amplified by oxygen mask, carried weight. Dad, the forms? Did Eli? Rowan nodded, evasive. Soon, bud. Beckett's gaze pinned Elias. Uncle, promise you'll soar. Even solo. Elias swallowed gravel. Soar with your echo, kid. Always. But the promise chafed, dual-edged. Night shift brought solitude. Elias bunking in the lounge on a lumpy futon. Dreams fragmented. Rowan signing alone. Beckett applauding from clouds. Elias adrift on the sound. Divorce papers as sales. He woke sweat damp. Checking vitals via app. Stable. But the graph trended inexorable down. Dawn coffee run led to the chapel, where Father Theo found him, incense lingering like old lover's scent. Struggles holy, the priest said, settling beside. Beckett's wish, it's his liturgy. But yours. Elias traced rosary beads Theo offered, would smooth as worry stones.
Mine zendurance.
But Rowan's pushing absolution through amputation. Theo nodded, eyes kind crinkles. Absolution's free. Amputation costs. The words lodged, and Elias pocketed a bead. Talisman too. Back at the bay, Beckett slept, chest rising shallow. Elias adjusted the blanket, fingers lingering on the DNR tattoo peeking from collar. Do not resuscitate. The ink mocked, a rebel script against the system's siege. Rowan's next assault came post-visitor hour, in the parking garage concrete echo chamber under hospital bulk. Rain sheeting windshields, wipers on intermittent like heart flutters. The lawyer called, contested dissolution if unsigned. Messy, Eli. For Beck's sake. Elias, key fob in hand, leaned against the hood, metal cold seep. Messy? Like life? Or like love unedited? Rowan's silhouette blurred in downpour. Love's not static. It's verb, act or atrophy. He thrust the wet sheaf forward. Act. Elias took it, rain spotting clauses like tears. In the cab of his car, engine idling, he read by dome light. Irreconcilable differences, cited as familial burden. Burden, the word ignited, and he tore again, fragments swirling in AC vents. No, he said to the dash cam's unblinking eye. Not burden. Blessing. Beckett's fevers broke temporarily, granting a good day, relative, but golden. Aides wheeled him to the solarium, a glassed atrium with ficus and faux sunlight. There, amid lounge chairs and magazines curling at edges, they played cards. Go fish, stakes gummy worms. Beckett won, crowing weakly. Sucker skill. Laughter rippled, genuine, and in its wake he turned serious. Guys, the air's thick. Divorce air. Rowan stiffened. Elias dealt another hand. Thick air means storms passing, Elias said. Beckett shook head. Or breaking. Fulfill it, Dad. Eli, forgive the fracture. The solarium emptied, leaving them to verdant hush. Rowan pulled Elias aside, behind a palm frond screen.
He's begging. Eli.
Can't you hear? Elias met his gaze, green eyes fractured like sea glass. I hear begging for peace, not partition. But doubt crept, a vine. That night, alone in the loft, Rowan staying over, Elias spread remnants on the kitchen island, taping like a mad cartographer. The mosaic mocked, half sentences of severance. Hospice conference followed, virtual via Zoom from the living room. Lynn the pharmacist, social worker Carla, Dr. Hale on screen, faces grave as graven images. Transitioning to GIP, Carla said. Inpatient hospice lingo for the final act. Family alignment aids closure. Rowan muted. Turned to Elias. Alignment. Sign. Elias, unmuted, replied to camera. Alignment's our vow, not void. The call ended awkward, pixels fading. Beckett's decline steepened. Swallowing faltered. Pureed meals rejected. Elias pureed memories instead. Stories of Tacoma boyhoods, Rowan's, his own Oregon orchards. Apples as big as softballs, he'd say, and Beckett would mime bite, juice dribbling. Rowan contributed apps, virtual reality headset, whisking Beckett to Yosemite Meadows or Tokyo Neon. See? Worlds beyond. Rowan murmured, but his eyes pleaded subtext. Our world, resized. The plea peaked during a midnight crisis, pain breakthrough, bolus morphine chasing shadows. As Beckett settled, eyes glassy, he clutched Elias's shirt. System, too loud. End the noise. Elias soothed. Sure, we've got you. But the words burrowed. End the noise. The system monitors meds, the marital machine groaning under strain. Rowan witnessing cornered post-crisis. Noise, that's us clashing. Divorce quiets it. In the hallway under exit signs red pulse, Elias cracked. Quiet or quietus? You want out, Ro, say it plain. Rowan's whisper broke. I want us whole. Apart, maybe. The admission landed and Elias reeled back to wall. Whole, like amputation makes. Silence stretched, broken by distant code blue. Elias wandered to the rooftop, city a jeweled sprawl below, ferries ghosting wakes. Wind whipped, carrying salt promise. He dialed Jordan, voicemail catching sobs. It's ending. Not just him, us. Hung up, stared at sound's black mirror. The system offered ends. DNR for heart, dissolution for heart. One pull, one signature, symmetry in mercy. Dawn brought decision's cusp. Beckett, roused, demanded the papers. Insistent, frail fist pounding blanket. Show me. Rowan produced them, pristine copy. Elias, entering, saw the tableau. Son scripting father's flight. Beck, please, the boy implored. Last chord. Elias took pen, world narrowing to tips hover. Ink would sever, refusal strangle. In periphery, Rowan's nod resigned, relieved. But Elias saw deeper. The chord wasn't divorce, but release. From the ventilator's tyranny, the chemo's chains. No, he said, pen clattering. The wish, it's peace. True peace. Beckett's eyes widened. Rowan's face fell. Eli, not ink.
Intervention.
The word hung, radical, irrevocable. End the system, not marriage, but machine sustaining suffering.
Hospice mobilized, edix consult stat.
Dr. Hale arrived, brow furrowed. Withdrawing support. It's his directive, but family consensus. Elias spoke for the triad. Consensus. For peace. Beckett nodded, tear-tracked. Yes. Rowan. Shattered. Acquiesced. For him. The room hushed, machines idling as orders typed. Elias held Beckett's hand. Rowan the other, bridge intact. Echoes carry, Elias whispered. Beckett smiled, fading. Harmonize. After. The withdrawal unfolded with clinical grace. A choreography of disconnection that felt both profane and profound. Nurses glided in, faces masked compassion. Unhooking lines with murmurs of easy now. The ventilator's whoosh crescendoed to silence, replaced by Beckett's natural rasp. Shallow, but his own. Morphine titrated higher, a velvet curtain drawing slow. Elias and Rowan flanked the bed, hands linked over the rail, a human circuit pulsing with shared pulse. Beckett's eyes, clear as tidal pools, darted between them. Free. Now, he breathed the words of benediction. Sunlight pierced the blinds, gilding the room in amber. Ironic warmth for the cooling. Elias stroked Beckett's hair, now fully regrown in drug-free defiance, curls soft as spring moss. You're the bravest track we ever mixed, he said, voice steady anchor. Beckett's fingers twitched in his, Morse for love. Rowan leaned in, forehead to Son's.
Proud, pull.
So damn proud. Tears fell unheeded, salting the sheets. Outside, Seattle stirred. Horns, gulls, the world's indifferent hum. But in the bay, time elasticated, stretching minutes to eons. Dr. Hale checked in, stethoscope cold prop. Comfort maintained. Any changes? Elias shook head, the question absurd. Change was the constant, relentless as tide. Lynn arrived with elixir, liquid morphine in a dropper, sweet as forbidden fruit. For the journey, she said, administering with ritual care. Beckett swallowed, Adam's apple bobbing finality. Tastes, like chocolate milk. Laughter bubbled, fragile bubble, popping into quiet. Memories surfaced unbidden, a montage unspooling. Beckett at 10, basin lap, plucking Wonderwall off key. Family camping at Deception Pass. Esmores charred to char, stars pricking the dome like pinholes. Elias voiced them narrative lifeline. Remember the troll? Said he'd guard your records. Beckett's lips curved. Tell him. Encore. Rowan added voice gravel. Your demo gold. We'll press vinyl. Legacy. The boy nodded, effort monumental. No divorce. Clause. Stay. Scored. The words pierced, a coda to the chaos. Rowan's grip tightened on Elias's hand, knuckles blanching. We hear you, Beck.
No close.
Elias met his gaze over the bed, green eyes raw, reflecting back his own hazel storm. In that mirror, fracture mended, not by ink but intent. The system's end wasn't marital. It was mechanical mercy, honoring the wish's spirit. Freedom from fetter, be it tube or taboo. Hours bled, shadows lengthening like fingers. Beckett's breath spaced. Gasp, pause, gasp. Shane Stokes' rhythm, the sea's ebb. Elias hummed the demo's hook, low and lulling. Unmoored, but not alone. Rowan joined, baritone harmony, their voices weaving net. Beckett's chest hitched, eyes fluttering to half-mast. Captains, sail on. Then softer, love, loop. The pause lengthened. Final. Monitors flatlined to elegy beep. One long tone, silenced swift by nurse's flip. Dr. Hale pronounced. Time? 3:47 p.m. But time fractured there, suspended in the afterbreath. Elias folded over the bed, sobs racking silent. Rowan keened, primal, arms around son and spouse. Nurses withdrew discreet, leaving the triad to tangle in grief's first wave. Sunset painted the room crimson, sound a molten mirror beyond. Carla, the social worker, returned, forms for aftermath. Death certificate, funeral preps, Rowan sign numb. Elias witnessing, the pen's glide wrote. Hospice bereavement, she offered. Groups, one-on-ones. They nodded, abstract. Alone again, they held Beckett, cooling clay, still beautiful in repose. He set us free, Rowan whispered, tracing freckles. Elias, throat raw, replied. To choose, together. The loft that night was mausoleum. Echoes of absence in every corner. Base propped in stand, mural birds frozen mid-wing. They collapsed on the couch, not lovers yet orphans, arms entwined against the void. No papers, Elias said into Rowan's neck. No end but this. Rowan pulled closer, breath hitching. This. The real wish. Sleep claimed them tangled, dreams merciful blank. Morning's machinery ground on. Service at a lakeside chapel in Wallingford. Beckett's demo playing as casket lowered, walnut, inlaid with soundwave ebony. Friends gathered, Jordan toasting to echoes. Ms. Reyes leading a cappella hallelujah. Rowan spoke, voice cracking. He taught us release. Not loss, but launch. Elias followed, sketchpad in hand. Beckett was our color in the gray. He urged freedom, and in granting his, we found ours. Attendees murmured assent, rain pattering roof like applause. Weeks folded, grief a tide, highs of rage, lows of numb. Rowan returned to code, but collaborative now, app for grief trackers with Elias's UI, mood maps, memory prompts. They walked the trail daily, Burke Gilman breathing space, hands brushing to holding. Intimacy rekindled slow, kisses in kitchen dawn, bodies mapping scars anew. No divorce, Rowan said one night, sheets rumpled, Elias's head on his chest. Ever. Elias traced tattoos, DNR faded, but heart's ink eternal. Ever. Seattle softened summer's approach, dogwoods blooming defiant. They scattered ashes at golden gardens, Beckett's choice, sea to claim his echo. Waves lapped the urn's pour, gulls wheeling witness. Loop, Elias said to the horizon, stone heart from the beach in pocket. Rowan slung arm around, solid. Infinite. Months later, the loft transformed. Care suite to studio, base on wall shrine. Elias freelanced a graphic novel, unmoored, their story in panels. Fractures, freedoms, the mercy of ends chosen. Rowan beta-tested, feedback-laced love. Beckett's wish lingered, not chain but compass, pointing to compassion's core. Love's truest act, endurance in vulnerability. One eve, rooftop under stars, space needle winking conspirator, Elias turned to Rowan. He saved us, by breaking us open. Rowan kissed temple, wind whispered. To whole, real whole. Below, city pulsed. Lives intersecting, echoes carrying. Freedom wasn't flight, but flight together. Truer, tethered by choice. In the quiet, Elias felt the loop close, not end, but eternal return. Beckett's last wish, fulfilled not in divorce but in depth. Hearts aligned, shadows shared, light reclaimed. They descended, hand in hand, the system silenced, but song resounding.